is 7 o'clock, and so I will call to order this meeting of the Noblesville Common Council. If you would all rise, and the gentleman from Troop 101, if you would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Quickly.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Ms. Lees, will you do the roll call, please?
Mr. Ayers? Mr. Boyce?
Present.
Mr. Davis?
Present.
Mr. O'Connor?
Present.
Mr. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Schwartz?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Sparks? Ms. Wiles?
Present.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from the February 8th meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Moving on to the approval of the agenda.
Madam President,
Mr. Smith.
I move to amend the agenda by removing miscellaneous number 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda. All those in favor, raise your right hand. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Moving on to petitions or comments by citizens who are present. I do not have any of the white sheets that are available on the desk out there. If anyone would like to speak to the council, please fill those out and present it to the clerk, and then we'll be able to call you up. Council committee reports. We have the park board met last week, and I don't have the minutes from that meeting, so I can't go into great detail, other than I do know that they gave a report of their programs for last year and had a very successful year, even despite COVID, and activities at the skating rink, and it was a good season. The father-daughter dance that's scheduled is sold out very quickly, so things are going well with the park. Finance Committee, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. We met February 17th. Greg O'Connor, Darren Peterson, Aaron Smith, and myself. Heather Trexler talked to us about the cancellation of expired warrants. Mr. Spalding discussed review of the property and casualty self-insurance loss fund. And Mr. Spalding also discussed the 2023 Cumulative Capital Development Fund tax rate reset and the 2023 Fire Cumulative Capital Fund tax rate reset. That and the claims come to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Any questions for Mr. Davis?
Madam President, I move to approve the claims as submitted. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the claims. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Mr. Mayor, do you have any comments that you'd like to share with council this evening? Mr. Mayor? No. Okay. Before I went all the way through the agenda, I thought, you know what, I'll ask you. So, all right. Moving on to previously discussed ordinances. We have ordinance 02-02-22. Council to consider ordinance 02-02-22, an ordinance to reestablish the Cumulative Capital Development Fund tax rate. Mr. Spalding.
Yes, Madam President, members of the council, Jeff Spalding, CFO and Controller. And as you just alluded to, this item is on second reading, so we went through a bit of an explanation at the last council meeting about this item, but as described then, this is under Indiana law, a routine task that the council needs to do every year to for these cumulative capital funds to establish early on before the budget process what the maximum tax rate can be for the funds, and then actually during the budget process the tax rate gets set. So this item is for the Cumulative Capital Development Fund. It's one of two funds that we have that are like this.
Any questions of Mr. Spalding? Okay, this is a matter for public hearing, and so I would move that we open, I'm just going to open the public hearing for ordinance 02-02-22.
Madam President,
Mr. Boyce?
seeing no members of the public coming forward, I would motion that we close the public hearing for ordinance 02-0222.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0.
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
I move to approve ordinance 02-02-22.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 02-02-22. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Wiles?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nay, the ordinance is approved.
Thank you very much. Moving on to council to consider ordinance 03-02-22, an ordinance to reestablish the fire cumulative capital fund tax rate. Mr. Spalding.
Yes, Madam President, members of the council. Again, I alluded to this in my comments on the last item. Same thing, different fund that falls under the same set of Indiana code statutes with regard to establishing the tax rate early on in the year, and then what the maximum tax rate can be. That's what this ordinance does, and then during the budget process, we'll lock down the actual tax rate for the fund.
Any questions of Mr. Spalding?
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor?
you need to open the public hearing first, don't you?
I do, yes. So I will open the public hearing for ordinance 03-02-22.
Seeing no one come forward, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for ordinance 03-02-22. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Mr. O'Connor?
Madam President, I move that we approve ordinance 03-02-22 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 03-02-22. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Lees?
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Boyce?
Aye.
Ms. Wiles?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nay, the ordinance is approved.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Council to consider ordinance 06-02-22, an ordinance for the adoption of waivers regarding the land use category of industrial office with a sub-district overlay of secondary corridor for approximately 45 acres southwest of the intersection of 146th Street and Oleo Road. Ms. Shelby.
Good evening. As you may recall at the last meeting, this is 45 acres that is located at the southwest corner of East 146th Street and Oleo Road. The applicants are proposing to construct 2 industrial flex buildings on this property. Surrounding land uses include agricultural land as well as other industrial flex spaces. There is Ruoff Music Center, and then there are vacant parcels of property. At the Plan Commission public hearing, there were several waivers that were granted regarding this development. As stated at the previous meeting, many of these are requirements set forth in UDO, and without these waivers, nothing could actually be developed there. So I think the example that I used the last time was that you could not have any ingress or egress points off of arterial roadways. Both 146th Street and Oleo Road are both arterial roadways. So without granting that waiver, not only could this development not come to fruition, but anything else that would be proposed there would have to be seeking these same waivers. Again, the Plan Commission did send this forward to you with a favorable recommendation for adoption. This is a site plan that basically has been proposed for the area. And I believe at the last meeting, I also indicated that these were the building elevations, and that happens to be Building 1. With that, I will ask if you have any questions of staff, and if not, there is a representative in the audience to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of staff? Yes, Mr. O'Connor.
Just for clarification, Joey's saying those ingress egress on Oleo and 146, are those right in? Are those I assume, are they full access?
Okay, so, yes. The two that come off of basically Oleo Road, one is for truck traffic, the other one is for like,
Vehicular?
yeah, vehicular traffic.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
I move to approve ordinance number 06-02-22.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 06-02-22 as presented. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Lees?
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Boyce.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Ms. Wiles.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nay, the ordinance is approved.
Moving on to ordinance 07-02-22. We will read that also with ordinance 08-02-22, so this will be a mouthful. Council to consider ordinance 07-02-22, an ordinance for a change of land use and sub-district category from commercial and secondary corridor to single-family land use with a sub-district overlay of mixed residential, all a part of the corporate campus plan development district containing 31 acres adjacent to the northwest intersection of Greenfield Avenue and Bowden Road. Council is also to consider ordinance 08-02-22, an ordinance for the adoption of a preliminary development plan including waivers and stipulations for a single-family land use with a sub-district overlay of mixed residential, all a part of the corporate campus plan development district containing 31 acres adjacent to the northwest intersection of Greenfield Avenue and Bowden Road. Ms. Shelton?
Thank you. Again, this was introduced at your last meeting. It is a proposal for residential development located at Greenfield Avenue and Bowden Road. Directly to the east of this is Ruoff Music Center. To the south is the mixed-use development of eventually what is Hyde Park. And basically surrounding on the west and north side of this property is the Deer Path Plan development, which includes single-family as well as the apartment uses. Again, this is a change of zoning from what is basically commercial to residential to allow this type of use. They are proposing 36 cottage homes and 176 townhomes in the area. The applicant did appear before the Architectural Review Board, and they were sent forward with a favorable recommendation. This is an example of what the townhomes will be very similar to. And then this is just a sampling of the single-family dwellings. Again, the Plan Commission held the public hearing and did forward this with a favorable recommendation for adoption. And again, the applicant and the representatives are present for any questions that you may have of them.
Any questions of staff or of the presenter?
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
I move to approve ordinances numbers 07-02-22 and number 08-02-22.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinances 07-02-22 and ordinance 08-02-22 as presented. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Peterson.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Boyce.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Ms. Wiles.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nay, the ordinance is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. New ordinances for discussion. Council to consider ordinance 04-02-22, an ordinance for the change of land use and sub-district categories from office and 146th Street corridor to single-family land use with a sub-district overlay of mixed residential, all a part of the corporate campus plan development district for approximately 21 acres adjacent to the northeast intersection of Campus Parkway and Maryland Road. Mr. Martin? Oh,
Move to introduce.
Second.
now, Mr.
Thank you.
Martin.
Thank you. Kevin Martin with the city's planning department. As you mentioned, I'll be presenting both items together today. Item number 4 is the rezoning request, and
Mr. Martin,
item,
can I interrupt you? I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and read the next item for discussion
Please.
so that it's all together.
thank you.
So we're also going to discuss ordinance 05-02-22, an ordinance for the adoption of a preliminary development plan, including waivers and stipulations for a single-family land use with sub-district overlay of mixed residential, all a part of the corporate campus plan development district consisting of 21 acres to be known as Mara Plan Development, adjacent to the northeast intersection of Campus Parkway and Maryland Road.
Move to introduce.
Second.
Now, Mr. Martin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So yes, both items, one is the rezoning, and the second one is the establishment of the plan development ordinance that establishes the regulations for the development. It is located on the 14600 block of Maryland Road. As you mentioned, it's on the northeast of the intersection of Maryland Road and Campus Parkway. It is approximately 21 acres in size. It is currently zoned within the corporate campus plan development district. The applicant is proposing to change the sub-district and the overlay the land use and the sub-district overlay designations. So the land use proposal is changing from office flex, which just allows basically office uses and uses accessory to office uses, to the single-family residential land use category, which allows residential, specifically this product. The sub-district change is proposed to go from 146th Street corridor to mixed residential. And as I mentioned, the other part of it is the adoption of the plan development ordinance, which allows for the construction of 144 dwelling units. Of those, 86 are proposed to be single-family, and 58 are proposed to be dwelling units. The project includes units that range in size from 1,500 square feet to 1,850 square feet. The main access point is along Maryland Road. I have let me show you. So here you can see the proposed site plan. This is Maryland Road along the west side of the project, and you can see Campus Parkway tapering south, just south of the site. The main access, as I mentioned, is off of Maryland Road. The internal streets are proposed to be public streets, and the internal alleys are proposed to remain private. Each home will be improved with a 2-car garage that is either side or rear loaded. There are, as you can see on the preliminary development plan, detention ponds along Maryland Road, and a number of rear facades along Campus Parkway on the south end of the project. The proposal includes a number of waivers, including the reduction of peripheral buffer yards, the elimination of the prohibition of rear facades along Campus Parkway, and also the reduction of the minimum unit size from 1,800 square feet to 1,500 square feet. The project has been to the Architectural Review Board. It received some comments. The applicants made some changes to satisfy those concerns. It then went to the Plan Commission and received a unanimous recommendation for approval with some stipulations. And with that, that concludes my presentation, my summary overview of the project. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them. If not, the applicant and applicant representatives are also here to take any questions.
Any questions of staff? Mr. O'Connor?
Mr. Martin, I'm sure this was discussed in Planning Commission, but how many parking spots are there outside of each individual unit? Was that a question in Planning Commission?
I don't think that it was brought up at Planning Commission, but if you're asking specifically on guest parking,
Yeah,
there's 109 guest parking spaces throughout the
that's
development.
the answer. Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions of staff? If the presenter would like to share anything with the council?
Thank you and good evening. For the record, John Dabashewitz, land use professional with the law firm of Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the applicant Onyx and East, and this evening Audrey Streitz and Brandon Bart are here with Onyx and East. I want to be available to answer any questions the council has. I just want to add, we submitted brochure information for the council that would have come to you in advance of your meeting on February 8th. Right in advance of that meeting, we were asked by engineering and planning to hold off until tonight's meeting, which we agreed to, met with engineering and wanted to address, they had two outstanding items that they wanted to get additional information on to make sure everyone was on the same page before we appeared in front of the council, which we are tonight. One was with regard to stormwater drainage that is planned to go through the apartment community to the north and then to a approved outlet, as well as passing an access design along Maryland Road, so there will be a dedicated left-hand turn lane as someone would drive southbound. So a car approaching 146th Street on Maryland wouldn't have to stop or be delayed from the intersection. There'd be a dedicated left turn at that approach, as well as a dedicated through lane going northbound. So there's a dedicated decel lane and taper on the east side of the street that would access into the development. Those were two items that they wanted to make sure that we were, again, everyone was on the same page, engineering, planning, the applicant, we are today. And our plan would be to return back to the council for adoption consideration on March 15th. And at that time, we're comfortable, well, we will have support from engineering, or there'll be a reason that we would come to a meeting at a future date. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Dabashewitz? Mr.
Just
O'Connor?
one, so, John, that's in lieu of putting in a passing blister at that?
It is a passing blister, but it's a lane. I've got a drawing of it, and we could review that. But it won't be your traditional passing blister. The additional lane, it'll be pulled to the east side because there's not adequate right-of-way on the west side of Maryland Road today to accommodate it. So it's a little bit of a shift. But the engineering department has provided us the geometry to employ on our site to achieve that. And now our engineer is charged with putting that design together, submitting it back to engineering, and having them sign off.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll see you on March 15th.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to miscellaneous item number 2. Council to consider a memorandum of understanding between the City of Noblesville, Hamilton County, and the Noblesville Bridge of Flowers Incorporated. Mr. Light.
Thank you, President Wiles, council members. For the record, I'm Matt Light, Deputy Mayor, and I'm wearing my Bridge of Flowers tie this evening. So I'm pleased to present to you the funding agreement for the Bridge of Flowers project. This is a collaborative agreement, collaborative effort, I should say, between the county, the city, and a nonprofit that was created with the leadership of a local resident, Dick Gordon, and some others who are interested in activating the Logan Street Bridge with quite a few different things that have been discussed at the Downtown District Committee for a few months that would include flowers, plantings, pergolas, seating, and other amenities that we think is an important part of our ongoing efforts to preserve and enhance our downtown. The funding agreement that's in front of you provides for a split of the costs between the city and county and the nonprofit. The project estimate is $800,000 for the project. The city and the county would both contribute under this agreement $362,500. The nonprofit would contribute $75,000, which they've indicated that they have already raised, and the nonprofit has already signed this agreement. The nonprofit also indicates that they would direct their efforts in future years to raising funds for replacement of the flowers, seasonal replacements, refreshing of the soil, and other things to update the look and the feel of the Bridge of Flowers. This MOU also includes some language relating to maintenance of the amenity, cooperation between the city and the county to make sure that we're crystal clear on handling of those pieces going forward as we embark in this effort. We think this represents a good partnership. As I mentioned, the nonprofit has already approved the agreement. It's scheduled to go to the commissioners on February 28th and to the county council on March 2nd for their review and consideration at that time. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and appreciate your consideration of this MOU.
Any questions of Mr. Light?
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor?
I would move that we approve the memorandum of understanding between the city, Hamilton County, and the Bridge of Flowers, Inc., as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the memorandum of understanding between the city, the county, and the Noblesville Bridge of Flowers. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council to consider, this is miscellaneous item number 3. Council to consider resolution RC-7-22, a resolution authorizing and approving the acquisition of real estate. Mr. Murray.
Thank you, President Wiles, members of council, Andrew Murray, Economic Development Director for the record. Before you this evening is a resolution that would authorize the approval for the acquisition of 77 acres in our community. To quickly orient you to the subject site, it is 77 acres within Innovation Mile. This is a strong investment and really is our next step to our planning commitment to Innovation Mile, which we announced last year in the month of September. As far as funding goes, we will be bringing back to this council future requests to carry out that funding strategy, which we have addressed, each of you at a high level. But based on our work of our TIP pro formas, we feel like we have ample unrestricted TIP dollars within 3 existing TIF allocation funds that will be to afford the benefit of this investment before you. So I'll stop there. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions of Mr. Murray?
One.
Mr. O'Connor?
Mr. Murray, when would we anticipate closing? What's the estimated closing date?
June 1st of this year.
Excellent. That's all I had.
Anything else?
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor?
I'd move that we approve the resolution RC-7-22, authorizing and approving acquisition of real estate as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution RC-7-22 as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Thank you very much. Miscellaneous item number 4, council to receive the annual report of expired warrants pursuant to IC 5-11-10.5 for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021. Heather Trexler, good evening.
Good evening. Heather Trexler, Chief Accountant. Every year, this is something that we do pursuant to IC 511-10.5-3. All checks that the City of Noblesville writes to vendors are only good for 2 years from the date that they are written. So these checks before you are checks written in 2019 that have not been cashed. We did try our best to contact all open vendors of these checks to find out status of them or, offer to reissue them. There are a few that are employees on this list, and they have said it's such a small dollar amount, they're okay just to let them go. It's easier, less time to take care of those. So we are asking, I'm asking if we can, if I'm allowed, can stale date these checks and get them off of our books.
My understanding is this is just a report, so I don't think we have to
Correct.
have any actions on this.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any questions of Ms. Trexler?
I just
Mr.
say I
Boyce.
remember doing this almost every year, but I don't remember having one over $1,000 before. That's kind of, I think that's rare. I don't remember that.
It is rare, and we did call the vendor, and the vendor did tell us we are in good standing with him. We have no open invoices.
Okay.
All right.
Better for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Miscellaneous item number 5, council to consider acceptance of a conflict of interest disclosure from Mr. O'Connor. Any comments, Mr. O'Connor?
Thank you, Madam President. I just do this annually. I work for BMO Harris Bank, and the bank does have some business activity with the city, but I have no personal involvement with that, so I just like to disclose it for the record.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from Mr. O'Connor?
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
I move to accept conflict of interest form from Mr. O'Connor.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the conflict of interest form from Mr. O'Connor. Are all those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Okay. Thank you very much. We are now to council comments. Would anyone like to make a comment on this 2/22/22 date? Mr. Mayor, good evening.
I changed my mind.
You guys got through that agenda a lot quicker than I thought you were going to. Thank you, Madam President. I rise on two points of personal privilege, if you wouldn't mind. First, I'll start with a heavier note. Many know a gal named Jennifer Nicholson in the city of Noblesville. She's really an institution in this city. She was my attendance secretary at Noblesville High School. She was many kids' music teacher at Noble Crossing Elementary. Her husband, Dave, is one of our police chaplains here and fire chaplains for the city of Noblesville. You would often see her with her grandkids around Noblesville, and we lost her on Sunday due to a cardiac incident. And if you can't turn on Facebook the last couple of days without seeing just enormous tributes to her, and I felt like it was probably worthy of this council to take a moment of silence in honor of her, and just I wish more people could be like Jennifer Nicholson. I think we would live in a happier life, and I will miss her dearly. The city will miss her dearly, and our hearts and prayers go out to the entire Nicholson family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll also end then with our Lady Millers are going to the state finals on Saturday down at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Tip-off, I believe, is at 8 p.m. You can get your tickets by going online to the athletic director's Twitter account. There's a link there through Ticketmaster. The entire Jensen family, minus the baby. We made that mistake last weekend. So 5 of the 6 will go downtown this weekend. I would encourage most of you to join us. We will be declaring Friday Black and Gold Day throughout the entire city of Noblesville to show your school spirit. So kudos to the coach and the Lady Millers. They're not just incredible basketball players, they're awesome student athletes and great representation of the future of the city of Noblesville. So I'm incredibly excited to honor them. I look forward to honoring them as state champions here in a few weeks. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other council comments? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.